Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. The theme of 2005 is landlords are evil, landlords are unethical. And if you know what you want to find out what I mean, then you can just go on thread and search up landlords evil and unethical, and you see a lot of posts like these. One of them is like a user said my dad is 94 years old now, and he's been evicted by the landlord. Can you believe that? And there's no back end, there's no story behind it, but that's what they just post. And then of course somebody chimed in and said landlords are the lowest of the lows. And then you can see something like this too, where somebody was talking about responding to somebody else that landlord are such germ, most of them don't deserve anything for their crappy apartment. And of course when they said landlords, they talking about all landlords. So others like landlords are staying upon humanity. And then if you look more like somebody trying to defend it a bit, people love to paint landlords as evil, but they are the reason why the housing market is alive. Without them, nobody is rushing to build home for free. So how about you creating something for yourself that allow you to not rely on them, or you are gonna keep crying? And then of course somebody's gonna come back and say, oh, landlords are free to create something that doesn't require them to rely on free stuff. Now when they said free stuff, they mean money from rental, and taking paycheck from people who are actually used for, which is rental. What they mean, landlords are takers and they get home for free. I don't know where they get the free part come from, because later I'll talk about the price of owning. But for now, they said, oh, they get the home for free. They could get they could just get a real job to be useful, but they refuse to. So for some reason they think landlords don't have the don't work and stuff and just sit home all day and just do nothing and make money. And that's what this one too. He talking about like the society problem that require two income, and then minimum wage to afford 20 years ago. One income can afford, and then now even two income can't. And then of course you end up with landlords or leeches. And then somebody to try to give some reasoning behind why people are starting to hate landlords so much. She said because unless you bought a home prior to 2012, you're now victim to paying high rent, right? And because housing costs and interest rate make it difficult to buy in today's market, so people turn on landlord for owning a home they choose to rent out and profit from. And then even she even said one commenter literally just told her that rent should be $0, which is like free. And then of course so what you want her to do, not invest in her future. Being a landlord is a business, it's transactional, not charity. So she just respond to another thread. And then of course this person this person is like one of the more aggressive person, respond person on thread. And I'll read on what the communication between me and him later. His name is Matty Rose. I can't even say it, socialist. So hoarding is not investing, which what he meant is landlord. And then doing nothing. He said landlords are doing nothing to pay you, and then they're doing nothing. And then he even going down said don't pretend landlord are better than pretending landlords aren't thieves. So he calls thief landlords, like anybody who own a home and rent out, he call them thieves. And then I'm calling you a parasite, so he call them landlords a parasite too, because that's what you are. You want to be one, that's your journey. So for some reason he think that people that were able to save up and then buy a house and then later on rent it out for like a profit, or thieves, or parasite. And or I mean, if you search up his name, you can even see that he think that because landlord collecting rent money, and the rent money is part of what the landlord used to pay off the mortgage. That means in the long term it's only fair for the renter to be partial owner of the property too, even though that the landlord's the one that put down the down payment, buying the property, borrow money, and then paying the mortgage, and then everything include all the expenses with home ownership too. So and then this one's I don't think it's wrong to say but as a landlord you should provide a safe working place to live and not make profit. So she doesn't expect landlord to should be able to make profit. If you can't afford a mortgage without a tenant, you shouldn't buy the house. Now the thing is like it's a free market, you know. Everybody entitled to offer their their service, or in this case the rental, at whatever price they want. You know, it's a free market. If it's too expensive, nobody's gonna rent it, and of course landlords gonna be forced to lower the rent, right? So why do you think that landlords shouldn't make a profit, and if they can't afford the mortgage without anybody living there, so the rental income is zero, then you shouldn't be buying a house? That just doesn't make sense. I mean, it's so last I checked, America is a free country, and people should be able to buy whatever they want. And of course, if they can make money out from it, then it's good for them. And of course, somebody come back and say, "This is how I take. If there's no profit to be made, landlord will cease to exist." He's right. If landlords can't make money, they're not gonna buy those property. And when they don't buy those property, what would someone who can't get a mortgage do? Some will counter that as, oh, then house price is gonna go down, and then of course if house go down, then everybody can afford it. But then a lot of people don't realize that back in 2008, that's what happened. If you live long enough, you'll remember that back in 2007, 2008, a lot, like the majority of home sales back then was with 0% down, which means does not require any down payment. Now that's the same, that's the same thing, right? And then of course, in addition to the zero down payment, everybody get approved. No matter how bad your credits are, you get approved. You get approved for a loan that you can't afford because your income doesn't support it. But everybody was able to buy a house. Now we all know that before 2007, 2008, the house price keep on going up because everybody rush out and buy. There's too many people that want to buy and too few houses. Same problem like today. Inventory is low and not too many people can afford it. That's why the house price is so high, right? So back then it's the same thing, but today, because we need, when we buy a house today, we need a down payment, a really large down payment. You can literally you can't get a loan. I mean, you can't borrow or you can't buy a house without a good down payment, which is different from back in 2008. Now that down payment, let's say if they didn't buy those houses, and the requirement for home ownership are the same, even if the house dropped in price, like let's say 50%, right? All the renter out there, the people that are renting right now, won't have the amount of down payment that they wanted to, that they need to buy a house. That's number one. They won't be able to afford it because they can't come up with the down payment. I mean, the majority of Americans don't even have like 10,000 in saving. Now, even if the house price, like in my area, which is like, I think the average right now is like around 800 or 900, even if it drops back to 500, you're talking about like 20% down payment. That's still like 100 grand, right? Even the house, if it dropped down to 500 average, it's still 100 grand. That's 20% for down payment. So renter don't have that. That's number one. Number two, they don't have good credits. That's why they go like that, because I'm not saying all renters don't have good credit, but I'm saying the majority of them don't have good credit. And that's why, like, if you don't have good credit, the lender's not gonna lend it to you. Why would they let you borrow money? The lower your credit, the higher your risk. So even if all landlords are out of the equation, let's say we take all the landlords out, a good amount like renter won't even be able to afford to borrow because they don't have good credit. And of course, the final thing is they don't have the right amount of income. If you can't afford the mortgages, the tax, the repairs, and then the insurance, the lender is not gonna lend it to you. So there's three things that renter today don't have, and that's why they're renting. They don't have the down payment, right? And then they don't have the credit score that they needed for the lender, right? And then they don't even have the income that's required to pay for the mortgage. So without those three things, you can't afford a house anyway. So you can't say that because of landlord, that's why the renter is still a renter. The renter will be a renter because of those three things. And then if you go back to this person, like he responded to so going back to the thread, and I'm kind of like going back and forth with this person. He said, why landlord saving can't buy a house, landlord, or why your saving can't buy a house, because you're too busy paying your landlord mortgage to get one of your own on top of that. So like I said, if you can't, even if they don't have to rent, they still have to live with somewhere, right? If you don't have money and there's no landlord, you have to live somewhere. Where are you gonna live? You can't just go out and buy a house. It's not that easy. You need the 3 items that I have listed above: the down payment, the credit score, and the income level, right? So and then he responded to this user, and they said, no, that would be because you didn't work enough. That's what he said. Income for a down payment when you left home at 18. Childhood is the only time someone else is responsible for paying for your housing. So she's right? So like the median house is 59,000. Just to check, you're saying that 18-year-olds should have that saved? Now the thing is, nowhere in here did she say that 18-year-old should have that saved to buy a house. She just said that you shouldn't have left. You shouldn't have left the house when you're 18. You don't generate enough income for a down payment when you're 18. And then of course I chime in like, why would you, which is like to this user, why would an 18-year-old need to buy a house? That's what I said. Like, if you can't afford to buy a house and don't like to rent, then you just move in with your parent. That's what I did. I didn't even buy my own house until I'm in my late 20s. Because if I can't afford it, or if I want to save up, I should live with my family, right? No one forced you to move out and spend money you don't have. That's what I said. Like, by 18, most of us can't afford to rent our own space. And of course she thought that I was talking to her, like, no one need to buy a house at 18. And I'm told, I'm like, I was responding to him. And then he said, landlord don't provide housing, they hoard it. So that's what he said. I'm like, okay, if landlord don't provide housing, then who does? And I'm like, don't tell me the builder that profit from the sale of the house, or the construction worker that got paid to build the house, provide housing. Well, but the lender that lend the money to the landlord to purchase the house, are they the one that provide housing? So all these people, the builder make money by selling the house, right? The construction worker make money because they're getting paid to build a house, and then the lender make money because they lend the money out and they get money from interest, right? And then you have the landlords. And then he said that landlords shouldn't make a profit from their investment. So what about all these 3 or many others, like the person that sell the door or whoever, like and, people that provide a supply for the house? Like, why landlords all of a sudden, right? I mean, you answered one question. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? No, I didn't. I'm asking your opinion. Who provides housing? Because you said landlord is not the one that provides housing. And then he started laughing, and he said, it's landlord that suddenly can't understand basic math. I'm like, okay, I understand basic math. That's why I am where I am right now. That's how they can afford to pay it back since they're paying the mortgage. And then I said, like, no, lender are in the business of making money. They won't turn away profit unless they know it's too risky. And because I said, renter cannot afford it. You think lender would have loaned them and make the profit of interest if they can qualify? And then he said, oh, right, renter obviously can't afford it, can't afford to pay it back because they're paying the rent. That's what I mean. Like, no, they obviously can afford to pay it back since they're the one paying the mortgage and then some, which is like the rent, because there's a profit on top. So that's what he mean by and then some, which is how Leech, land Leech, which he call us now, make money if you are renting below what they pay a mortgage, especially long term. And of course I counter it, like, tell that to the 2 tenants that I evict last year, because they pay rent and then they're late on rent and I have to evict them, which obviously prove that they can't afford the rental, the rent every month, right? And then sorry, you're saying that you overcharge, so you're saying that you overall charge less rent to pay for the mortgage. Now I didn't say that. I never said I charge less for the mortgage. I'm just saying, like, renter can't afford the house, to buy a house, right, a place to live. So I'm like, no, not all of my tenants are paying the market rate. Some are currently below, yada. Then they won't have a mortgage and some they can't rent it out for 0, right? And then if someone down 100%, my point is, let's say, if I have 100% down, like I have 100% to pay, to buy a place in cash. Now should I rent it out for $0? Because if you don't think I should make a profit out of it, then I should rent it out for $0. And then he said, you're not answering his question because he want to ask me, I didn't ask about the market rate, I didn't ask about your mortgage, what am I paying? I'm like, oh, when you said your account for a 210 and evict, because obviously they couldn't pay, that's why you evict them, right? As above, how many months of mortgage on the building you intend to keep 100%, did they pay you prior to that? I'm like, why would that matter? Why would it matter how much how many months they pay? They just got late on rent and I had to evict them. If I don't have a loan and pay my purchase in cash, would have to rent it out for zero since I don't have a mortgage payment. Then the two numbers are disconnect, like how much I paid mortgage and the rent, they're not connected. And how much I down and how much I paid mortgage and the rent are disconnect, because how much I paid mortgage consider how much I down too. So put it this way, my client bought $1 million home, he can't move in yet, so he rented out like a client a month ago. So his mortgage and tax come to $7,000 per month. Market rate was around $4,000. Should he rent it out at $7,000 because his mortgage is $7,000 instead of $4,000? I asked him that. I'm like, how many months of your mortgage did the tenant pay before you evict them? I'm like, 3 months. After they got 6 months from the government, the city, because that's what they get, like the city gave them some money. So they were there for 9 months but only paid for 3. And then he said, oh, so they pay your mortgage and more. How much more for 3 months? I'm like, wait, why would that even matter? I'm like, dude, they only pay for 3 months. I'm on the hook for the loan for 30 years. 3 months out of 30 years, like less than 1%. Is that what he's trying to argue now? Did you return that when you had the police remove them? I'm like, wait, I should go rent somewhere for a month and stop paying? I'm like, by your logic, I should go rent for somewhere for a month and then pay and claim that the place is my house because I pay for 1 month rent? With this kind of mindset, I hope you good luck in life. No, by your law, by my logic, you should pay your own mortgage. I'm like, I am paying my own mortgage. I'm using money for the rent to pay my own mortgage. I have the right to do that. I'm like, seriously, like, I don't know where this landlord, this leeches landlord is, the unethical and all that stuff, and then landlords shouldn't be, make a profit on top of their mortgage because, if the mortgage is low, they should charge like only the mortgage rate. I'm like, no, we're a free country. We have the right to charge wherever we can afford to, because the market will dictate that. If the market won't pay for my 2-bed 1-bath won't pay for more than $1,500, I can't charge more than $1,500. Because if I charge more than $1,500, it's gonna sit there vacant, and no landlords out there is gonna let their place sitting vacant. So that's the most expensive thing that can happen to them. But this person, again, you got your mortgage for your building paid by other for 9 months, correct? And then he's telling me to get a job to pay my own for my session, and then call me a parasite again. I'm like, okay. And then after that, I just block him. Like, this guy's crazy. And then if you go look at his profile, you see he's arguing with a whole bunch of people about that too. And then I'm like, seriously, so why landlords aren't entitled to make any profit with their property? It doesn't make sense. Everybody out there making profit with their Walmart is buying wholesale and then sell it back at retail for a profit. Anybody, if you go to Hertz, you rent their car, they of course have to make a profit on the rental, right? So why is it all of a sudden landlord's the only one that shouldn't be allowed to make a profit? Anyway, well, let me know what you think in the comment section, and I would love to discuss this with you further if you have another point of view. Of course, I'm looking for a discussion only and not like an argument. But at the end of this message, I noticed that I can't give him any more. I can't give him any more time because it's just gonna turn into an argument from then on. So, but if you look on thread, you'll see a lot of them right now. And then that's the theme for 2025. Like, landlords are unethical. You shouldn't rent for more than how much more than your mortgage, and you shouldn't be a profit. And that just, to me, that's like completely wrong. And then anyway, thank you for following this video, and then I hope to see you next time. Thank you.